Healthcare Surrogates: Integrating Law and Ethics by Lori English, Nathan Winterburn, and Colin Rabach. A 32-year-old woman was admitted to the trauma intensive care unit following a motor vehicle accident. She had multiple injuries and fractures, with several complications, which continued to develop over the first couple of weeks. The patient entered a comatose state that night at the hospital and was placed on a ventilator. Shortly after the patient's admission, her soon-to-be ex-husband was unable to be contacted. Thus, the second emergency contact, the patient's parents, were contacted and remained vigilant at her bedside. They reported the patient was 1 month away from having her divorce finalized and relayed their concerns. The patient's husband was reportedly physically and emotionally abusive to her throughout their 5 years of marriage, and she had been recently admitted to the ER for facial bruising and a laceration that required stitches. Despite the nearly finalized divorce and apparent abuse, he is her current healthcare surrogate and insists he can and should make her medical decisions. After reading this case, there are overarching questions which need to be addressed in order to conduct a thorough analysis from all viewpoints. Question 1. Given the known abuse, should the husband be responsible for treatment decisions which the patient cannot make? Question 2. What are the ethical and legal parameters regarding this case?
In order to analyze this case from all sides, it is best to disconnect the issues through the perspectives involved. With that being said, the parents, the husband, and the hospital's perspectives are all utilized and taken into full consideration. It is understandable that they have no desire to keep the patient's current healthcare surrogate in control of her medical decisions. The parents do have the ability to make a petition for temporary guardianship, which would allow them to have authority to make medical decisions for their daughter, the patient. However, to do this, a petition for guardianship is required to do so. Given the known abuse history with the husband, it is likely that they would grant temporary guardianship for the parents until the daughter's divorce was final. Then the surrogate and the power of attorney could be reassigned after the divorce went through. This would allow the parents to gain power and make medical and financial decisions on behalf of their daughter. The patient has a right to autonomy. Her parents have the ability to make medical decisions on her behalf, may be interpreted to be in violation of her own rights to make her own decisions. An ethical dilemma that is present in this case is that between the parent's right to make her medical decisions and her inability to express her desired treatment plan. If the parents are granted guardianship for their daughter, they are obligated to make the medical decisions to the best of their ability to what their daughter would have wanted. They are responsible to make this decision with their daughter's best interests in mind. Until the parents receive guardianship for their daughter, they will not be allowed to be involved in any part of the treatment plan. They will not have any say in the treatment plan, and this means that they will be not allowed to make any medical or financial decisions until they are granted that temporary guardianship. Any decisions made about the patient's care plans should be made according to the principle of beneficence, which is a principle of doing good. Until the legal issues within this case are addressed, the soon-to-be ex-husband will still remain the patient's healthcare surrogate.
In this case, the husband would be appointed as the surrogate who would make the decisions regarding his wife's health and finances. The husband needs to follow certain rules when making decisions for his wife that include making decisions in accordance to her wishes, morals, and beliefs. If the husband does not know his soon-to-be ex-wife wishes, he must make decisions regarding her health in the best interest for her. The fact that the wife has not previously determined a medical proxy leads the physicians to have to pick one on her behalf. The selection process starts at the top of the list and continues down until each category is met. The physician begins with the spouse and continues to adult children, then the parents, adult siblings, adult grandchildren, and lastly, adult friends. Some concerns may be raised due to the fact that the wife has been hospitalized for apparent abuse, and the couple is in the process of a divorce. If the hospital does not question his ability to make decisions in regards to his soon-to-be ex-wife's health, he will be able to continue as the medical proxy and make all decisions until the divorce is finalized. Although there is an unfortunate case of abuse within this, the husband does not have legal rights obtained from the marriage. Had his wife been competent, she may very well have removed him as her healthcare surrogate. Although some may not deem him capable of making these decisions on her behalf, legally he is still entitled until further action or the divorce is finalized.
Although this case study is not necessarily a right-to-life issue, the case of Terri Schiavo shows similar patterns regarding the legal battles between Terri's spouse and her parents. Although they were defending Terri's right to live, or her right to die, they were ultimately attempting to decide who should be given the right to make decisions on Terri's behalf. The principles of both ethic and legal factors involved in making this decision align with our case in similar ways. Let's take a look back on Terri's life.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at a man's fight over a decision to allow his incapacitated wife to die.
From 2003 to 2005, one woman's story captivated the country.
Terri Schiavo.
Spurring a national debate over the right to die.
To deliberately starve her to death is an act of cruelty, and ultimately it's murder.
And the role of government in private life.
Give Terri water! Give Terri water!
On the week of the 10th anniversary of her death, a look back at the defining moments of the Terri Schiavo case.
Terri collapsed one morning in 1990. Her heart had stopped.
When she finally opened her eyes, doctors said she was not conscious. Over the next several months, she went from rehabilitation centers to hospitals and back again, each day getting occupational and physical therapy. A battery of tests, including MRI scans, showed brain function remained significantly impaired.
After years of effort, Michael Schiavo agreed with doctors that there was no hope for recovery.
Terri has made the same movements, the same noises, the same sounds for 13 years.
Her parents felt otherwise.
Please, please, please save my little girl.
So the decision to end her life was debated in the courts and in the State House.
Who's going to look out for this girl's rights? We have to.
We don't make laws in this state based on emotion.
Jeb Bush pushed to keep her alive.
The governor of Florida says a comatose woman will not be allowed to die. He will order her feeding tube put back in.
But the court But the courts overruled the Florida law.
Florida's Supreme Court struck down as unconstitutional a law passed to keep a comatose woman, Terri Schiavo, alive,
encouraging members of the U.S. Congress to take up the charge.
Congress has jumped into the case of a brain-damaged woman in Florida today.
And this judge in Florida want to pull her feeding tube and let her starve for 2 weeks. That is barbaric.
A woman's life is at stake.
And even the president.
In extraordinary circumstances like this, it is wise to always err on the side of life.
But the courts prevailed.
Terri Schiavo's family and their supporters desperately search for a way to force doctors to reattach the tube. It is increasingly clear that the courts will not willingly do that.
And her husband was allowed to remove the feeding tube.
Terri Schiavo has died. The saga is over. The debate about life and death continues.
10 years later, we remember the woman that made the nation ask,
who decides whether a person who cannot decide for themselves lives or dies?